So I've had an idea for a long time, a project I've wanted to do on these that it's very simple in nature. It's just having the time for me to execute it, also having the correct equipment for me to do it. And now I do. So if you've been around for a while, this was an oil catch can design that I did 2 years ago. I think I made a batch of like 5 of them. It's internally baffled. It's got a stop in it so that, you know, even if it freezes, you still just get air that comes through. And like this was emptied 3,000 miles ago and it works really good. Like this is all coming out of that. So it works awesome. And if you run a catch can on your MR16 DDT, and more specifically if you run the 2-to-1 setup where it's constantly pulling vacuum from the crankcase, you know that these fill up really, really quickly. And if you're running different companies, one like the Mishimoto sized ones, those fill up in like a week. So if you have to empty it out every week, which is a problem. This one wasn't totally full. It was probably about 2/3 the way full, and it's only been like 1,000 miles. So I want to make a high capacity oil catch can. Now the biggest problem with this engine bay, the Juke specifically, is that there's nowhere to do that unless you make a funky shaped one, and then it's a pain in the ass to reproduce, and I can't really share it with you guys to give you other options. Saikumichi makes a pair of catch cans that work absolutely awesome. They're fairly large capacity, but they're very expensive. So I've been doing research over the past couple of months trying to figure out a way to make a large capacity catch can that gets rid of having anything in the engine bay, because this engine bay is crowded enough as it is, and have it so that it's a 2-to-1 built in. So I finally got a CNC router. I figured out how to cut aluminum on it fairly consistently. I got a lathe so that I can make barbs, and I have the ability to weld aluminum. So now it's just a matter of putting my design to application. So that is what I'm going to do. My plan is to actually make a oil catch can that mounts behind the bumper underneath this headlight. Unless you have a cold air intake down there, there is tons of space to mount something. I used to have a CVT cooler that I threw around that mounted up over there. So if you can fit that giant CVT cooler, you can definitely fit an oil catch can. So I already ordered all the materials. I have all the materials here. I've actually been sitting on them for a while. I've done the CAD work for the top and bottom plates that I had to cut out on my router. I even designed a way to drain the system without actually having to take anything off the car. So once you install it, that's the only time the bumper has to come off. So I'm gonna go ahead and just walk you guys through the process of making that and showing you how I'm gonna go about doing that. I've also designed it so it's super easy for me to repeat, so I can make a run of these things so that you guys have access to it. This catch can has worked awesome for me, but again, unless you have a short ram intake, you can't run it, which is why I did such a short run of them. So it's time for me to move on to something else. I also need something that I can now offer when I do builds on cars, since I'm getting so many people that are sending me their cars. Like over the summer, I have a couple of cars already lined up. I need something that I know that I can mount down there without having to worry about intake running in the way, or if I'm doing something custom, having that get in the way. Also, other projects I'm working on, I need a catch can that is high capacity that I can mount somewhere remote and not really have to worry about it. And I know there's catch cans on the market, but if I can make it myself for, you know, the amount of money it costs me to make them, I much prefer to do that, because then I know what's in it and I know how it's going to work. So yeah, we're gonna jump into that. So the first thing I got to do is take off this front bumper so that I can see exactly what I have for space that I'm working with. I know what diameter tube I'm going to use in order to make the can itself. I'm just not sure on the height or the mounting location yet. So that's the first thing I have to work on. So this is the area that I'm talking about that I want to put the catch can. Like I said, cold air intakes run down here, but the factory intake doesn't. There's a little silencer that sits there, but other than that, there's nothing really there. So I'm going to grab my pipe that I have, and I'm going to see what I have for mounting options and room. So I think I found my spot. This mounting bracket's just a water pump bracket that I found online. but it works for piping. So when I tighten that up, it will squeeze this 2 3/4 inch pipe. With this where it is, it's very barely touching, so if I just rotate that, it's not going to hit. And I got plenty of room above it to run the lines, and then I have room for my drain, and that's the hole that I'm aiming for with my drain, and I'll show you guys how that's going to work. So now I got to do some CAD work, or I should say some CNC cutting, to do the next part. So what I have here is my CAD file. I did a DXF and then exported it to this software, which is what runs my machine. I actually have space so I could cut out 2 sets of these, but I'm just going to cut out one for now. It's going to take about 50 minutes to cut, it says. So I put down some cutting lubricant where it's going to start some of the cuts, which helps the process go a little smoother. So now I'm just going to fire this thing up. I've learned on this machine that you have to stop it every like 10 minutes, let stuff cool down, and then go again. You leave the router running the entire time, it doesn't have a problem. It's just you have to let the metal cool down, you have to let the bit cool down. This bit is almost done. I'd be surprised if it does this cut perfectly clean, but because this is going on my car, I'm not that worried about it. I do have a new bit for when I cut the other one out to make another can to see how long it takes me to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and put you guys on a time lapse, and we're going to go ahead and get to cutting. So yeah, that other bit died. So I killed that piece of material, so I just cut up another piece of material. This is actually thinner, so it'll actually cut a lot quicker. So I got it positioned in there with a brand new bit. I'm gonna do this again. So while that's cutting, I have my lathe set up. I'm gonna go ahead and make the end of this have a couple of recesses in it, just for something for the hose to grab onto, so kind of like a barb. Just little tiny ones, nothing crazy. You just need a little bit of structure to it, a little bit of something to snap onto. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So I've got the top and bottom done. Again, these are prototypes, so they're going to be a little rough looking. The ones that I actually would sell would have a nice laser cut finish to them. So now what I'm going to do is I drill a series of holes in my inlets, which are these right here. What has to happen is these need to face away from the outlet, which is here, which is where the vacuum is going to be applied to the system, so that it separates. And before this gets welded onto the tank, I add a filter material, which I use stainless steel, basically a stainless steel sponge that you might see at your kitchen if you use something like that. But it is stainless steel, so it doesn't break down. You put that in there so that the water and oil have to pass through that material before it actually gets pulled back up into the system, which helps keep the fluid out of your system. So now what I got to do is I got to weld everything in. I have an inch sticking out on the back so that I don't have too short of a grab from the hose. So it's just a matter of welding all three of these, and then on the bottom I have a little hole for my 1/4 inch drain hole, so I just have to weld that one on too. Alright, so the next thing that I'm going to do now that I have the bottom and the top all welded up is I need to put the can together. So the easiest way for me to do this is to actually weld the top on first, and we'll put our filler material in and then weld our bottom on. So now I'm going to go ahead and weld the top on there, and then go ahead and weld the bottom on there. So while that cools down, we're going to go ahead and do the lines. Now, this 2-into-1 configuration I could still use. I have to extend these two hoses, but I want to do this the way that I'm going to tell people to do it. So it's going to have its own hose running from the PVC barb and from the breather barb down and then back up into the intake. And that also will benefit you because if the can is full, it's got to make it all the way up to get back in there, so it's going to reduce the potential of getting any sort of vapor into the engine as it is. So I'm going to go ahead, I got to take off that hose and that one, and then I got to connect the new lines, which I bought a lot of so that I can make them long enough to run down to our little mount. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Alright, so there it is, mounted up, rock solid, thing does not move at all. I've got the 3 lines hooked up, and then I have the drain. So the drain runs down just above the fender liner, and you can just pull it, reach your hand up underneath here when you're doing like an oil change or something, grab that, and this is just a quick twist and it starts draining out. I think that's really cool looking. It's tucked in there really good, so you know, if a tire blows up or something, it's not gonna get taken out. As far as the hoses go, it makes for way less hoses if you're doing this way. So you know, you have the one that runs that way, The one that runs there, and this one right here is just a straight shot down there. It's important to note that I already have my port and my intake manifold capped off from before. But yeah, I really like this. The hardest part was really the cutting the top and the bottom out on my CNC. So the version that I'm going to make a run of, I'm just going to have laser cut out, so it's a lot easier. The rest of it, like the stuff I did on the lathe and the welding, really isn't that bad. So I think I'm going to go ahead and make a run of these. There won't be too many of them, but I think it's a cool little stealth thing. You know, the catch can is hidden down there. When you put the bumper on, you'd have absolutely no idea that that was there. It's easy to drain out. You don't have to take it out to drain it. And really, it can be mounted to any car. So a universal can basically is what I made. It's the mounting that just makes it really stealthy. So yeah, I really like that. Let me know what you guys think of that in the comments down below. I think it's really cool. Yeah, cool. Hi, you made it through a whole video. I appreciate that. You should go check out our other videos. You should also go check out our website, FastReligion.com. We got like sweatshirts and t-shirts and stuff.